In my early 20s, I moved to London. I loved everything about the city. The London lifestyle suited me down to the ground. It gave me everything I ever wanted and more. But I knew deep down it was only a short-term plan, 5 years at the most. I had a job in recruitment and was earning great money for my age. The London lifestyle was catching up with me. Most nights I would go out and drink until the early hours of the morning and use cocaine to keep me awake at work. I was slowly going down a downward spiral, and I planned for 1 more year in London before moving back home to Dorset. I lived in Hackney and I worked in Canary Wharf. My office looked over the River Thames and towards the O2 Arena. On my last year of living in London, something terrifying happened to me, something I find hard to explain still to this day. It wasn't long after Christmas, maybe the 2nd or 3rd week in January. The Underground was on strike, so my only way to get to the office was either book an Uber or get the bus. It was 7:30 in the morning and the sun was beginning to rise over London. I chose to get the bus. There were 2 buses I needed to catch. The first was from Stamford Hill Station and the second from Hackney Town Hall. I remember the first bus being so busy that not only could I not get a seat, but I even struggled to grab one of the hanging handles. I listened to a podcast, and after around 20 minutes, I was able to catch the second bus from Hackney Town Hall. This is where the ghost story truly begins, and this is where things got disturbingly weird for me. I got on the bus, which was strangely quiet. This bus was further into the city and made no sense that it was next to empty. I remember it was me, 2 guys sitting at the back of the bus, and an old lady sitting to the left side, towards the back. I scanned my card and sat on the right side, minding my own business. It was a 40-minute journey, so I continued to listen to my podcast. All of a sudden, I felt a presence of someone sat behind me. I suddenly turned around to see the old lady was now sat directly behind my seat. What was strange about this was I'm sure I would have seen her get up and move across. I continued to listen to my podcast, but all of a sudden, I felt incredibly cold. It felt like when you walk down the freezer section in a supermarket. The cold feeling was coming from behind me. I turned around to see the old lady had moved again. I looked to the back of the bus and could still see the same 2 guys sat at the back playing on their phones. I turned to face the front of the bus and couldn't believe my eyes. The old lady was now sat 2 seats ahead of me. There was no way I would have not seen her move. This was really creeping me out, and at this point, I couldn't make sense of what was happening. I slowly turned the volume down on my podcast, and I could hear the old lady was speaking to herself. I took my headphones off and listened to what she was saying. "When I die, then you'll cry. When I die, then you'll cry. When I die, then you'll cry." The old lady would constantly repeat this word for word. I looked behind me at the 2 guys at the back of the bus, and they were just minding their own business, as if nothing was going on. Everything about this moment was truly terrifying. I looked outside the window and turned my podcast back to full volume. Seconds later, the old lady stood up and walked towards the back of the bus. She would grab the handrails above each seat to help support her walking. As she walked past me, I felt a shudder go up my spine. We were driving past Mile End Park, so I was only a couple of minutes away from getting to Canary Wharf. I stared out the window and tried to keep my mind preoccupied by looking at the park. The bus was slowly coming to a stop, as traffic was really busy from the tube strikes. We arrived at Pixley bus station. The traffic was start-stop as we went over the bridge. I noticed flowers were on the bridge. I looked closer and took a second look, as I could see a picture amongst the flowers. I recognized the person in the picture immediately. The person in the picture was the old lady that had been on this bus my whole journey. I turned around to see that the old lady was no longer on the bus. I pulled my headphones straight off my head. I remember dropping them on the floor and breaking them. I approached the two men on the back of the bus. I said, "The old lady, did you see her?" They both looked at me with confusion on their face. One of them said, "I don't know what you mean, old lady. It's just been us two and you on the bus the whole time." I walked to the front of the bus and I asked the bus driver if he had seen an old lady get on the bus. He said nobody has got on this bus. It was just been you and the two sat at the back. I asked the driver to open the door. "I can walk from here," I said. I got out and I ran back towards the bridge where the memorial was. I stared at the picture, feeling truly terrified and confused. A small note was left tucked into the picture, a crumpled up note with water stains from the rain that read, "I now cry." This remains to be the single scariest experience of my life. I hope you enjoyed the first horror story of the new year, and if you have a terrifying horror story you would like to share, please write to me at MrFearYouTube@outlook.com.